All right, I think captions should run. So I believe that we are ready. Hello! Welcome everybody to Archival Adventures. I am Rogan27 on the internets, and Anthony Wright de Hernandez, Community Collections Archivist at Virginia Tech. And this is a once-a-week show that I do on both my personal channel, twitch.tv/Rogan27, and the Virginia Tech University Library's Twitch channel, twitch.tv/VTUL Studios. And what we do here is, every week, there's something from special collections and university archives that we look at on stream, and most often I've never seen it before. And we learn together, because I'll tell you what, I'm not an expert in any of these subject areas. My degree, library and information science. So when we're talking World War II history, not my expertise area. When we're talking science, not my expertise area. But I approach this with wonder, and I hope that you do too. So, Twitch is yelling at me about their ads manager. I will look at that later. Anyway, how is everybody? Let me see who's here and say hello. At present, I see Matt M33. Welcome, and a 5-stream streak. Excellent. Hi, Hannah. Yes, we already have streaking on the bridge. Lord Portico, hello. Hello, Fluidan. Hello, anybody else who's just here, and you're welcome to watch. You don't have to chat, but if you want to chat, there are 2 of them, one on each channel. I still am working on figuring out how to make all this work with YouTube at the same time. It was slightly more complicated, just solely because I don't directly control the YouTube channel that one of the YouTube channels that would need to be live, and which is the library's YouTube channel. I can upload content, but going live turned out to be more complex, and I just haven't had time to dig in. Anyway, hi, welcome to the adventure. I'm rambling. Since we are looking at history, and the materials we're going to look at are part of the collections at Virginia Tech, we just like to start off each week by acknowledging the history of Virginia Tech with the land acknowledgement and labor recognition. Institution channel confusion. Virginia Tech acknowledges that we live and work on the Tutelo and Monacan people's homeland, and we recognize their continued relationships with their lands and waterways. We further acknowledge that the Morrill Land Grant College Act of 1862 enabled the Commonwealth of Virginia to finance and found Virginia Tech through the forced removal of Native nations from their lands in California and other areas in the West. Virginia Tech acknowledges that its Blacksburg campus sits partly on land that was previously the site of the Smithfield and Solitude plantations owned by members of the Preston family. Between the 1770s and the 1860s, the Prestons and other local white families that owned parcels of what became Virginia Tech also owned hundreds of enslaved people. Enslaved Black people generated resources that financed Virginia Tech's predecessor institution, the Preston and Olin Institute, and they also worked on the construction of its building. That's the shortened version. If you want the full thing, you can find it here. So we just like to make sure that we acknowledge that as we look at things. And when I have some, we do look at material related to both of these communities. I don't think there's going to be much today specifically about that, but what we are going to look at today is Victory Gardens. This was supposed to be part of an episode a few weeks back, and instead we got distracted by the wartime propaganda items that were in those collections. Hi, Pretty Witchery! Which Mobile will not let you bother me? It is criminal. So yeah, we were supposed to look at just food stuff generally with regard to World War I and World War II, but we got distracted by propaganda, which honestly is the job of propaganda, so that's fine. But since we spent that entire episode on propaganda, we never got to the Victory Gardens things, and so I made that for today. We're going to look at material about Victory Gardens, sometimes also called War Gardens, apparently. I don't know. And I have 4 boxes next to me. And so if you wanted to peek at the finding aids and see information about the full collections or specifically what's in boxes, and you see something that jumps out at you that's in one of the boxes that I have, let me know. We can look at it even if it's off topic, because anything's going to be tangential, whatever. It's going to be a close topic, so even if it's slightly off, it's fine. So what I have is the World War II Food Ephemera Collection, the Military and Wartime Cookery Collection, Box 1. It lists specific folders here. That's mostly to help me. I have the whole box. The Lynn Oliver Collection, Box 2. And the State/Regional Home and Agriculture Publications Collection, Box 1. I had hoped to also share another box with y'all, or another collection with you, that had some specific, like, Victory Gardens related things. However, when it rained from our ceiling the second time, that box was directly in the path of all of that water. Some of the items in it were destroyed completely. The box was destroyed completely, and then the remaining items had to be laid out to be dried, which they were. And that's the last time that anybody was certain of their location. They're no longer where they were laid out to be dried. We thought they had been boxed up again, and so I was unable to locate the box, at least in time for this. And we'll find it eventually. But I personally don't know what happened to it, other than that it was the one that got water damage. And we're not sure where it is right now. So those items we won't be looking at, but I have other relevant things that we can look at. So, where to start? Well, does everybody know what a victory garden is? Maybe that's where I should start. I should look at, I'm going to start with the state and regional home and agriculture publications, because I think we'll get a definition of victory garden from the stuff in there. I don't know for certain, because I'm not 100% certain what materials are in this box, but archival box. Relatively small collection. Let's see. What did I say? I said folders 2, 6, and 8. Or 2, 6, 7, and 8. So folder 2 is just called Illinois. But apparently I found something about victory gardens in the Illinois folder. Just gonna... I'm still experimenting with the bounciness of this camera, meaning I haven't solved the problems yet. I've been very busy. We will get it solved. Okay, and 6, 7, and 8. It doesn't want to focus on the text on the folder for some reason. Frustration. Okay. Illinois, and then the other 3 are all Virginia. But let's see here. Laundry areas is not victory gardens. So that one's not it. Arched roof underground storage cellar for vegetables, fruit, or eggs. That could be relevant. Basement fruit and vegetable storage for victory gardens. These appear to be part of the same series. I think we'll end up looking at both of them. So, concrete information. Cement Products Bureau, the Portland Cement Association. Now, this was in the Illinois folder, so I assume that this was published by Illinois. October 1942, so this is World War II era. The Portland Cement Association, and this is also number CP53, so part of a series of publications. You don't need my location, internet. Portland Cement Association. A non-profit organization that promotes the use of cement and concrete. Okay, so that's similar to the American Egg Board. Conducts and sponsors research, participates in setting cement manufacturing standards, disseminates free designs of concrete-based architectural structures, which I believe these 2 pages that we're going to look at both fall into that category. Free designs of concrete-based architectural structures. It was formed in October of 1902, founded in New York City. Like, all of that makes sense. I just have no idea why it's in the Illinois folder. Pretty Witchery! Congratulations on being randomly selected as VIP for the stream. So, yeah. My only question is, why is this in the Illinois folder? Now picturing a 40s housewife pouring concrete. I mean, why not? Okay, let's see what this says about Victory Gardens. Okay, basement fruit and vegetable storage for Victory Gardens. Because maybe it will... Well, okay, it's not going to give us a definition. So let me just quickly get a definition of a Victory Garden for you. Just in case somebody watching live or later on the VOD doesn't know what one is. So we'll just pop on over to Wikipedia for a general description of what is a Victory Garden as a basis for our discussion and exploration. Victory Gardens, also called war gardens or food gardens for defense, were vegetable, fruit, and herb gardens planted at private residences and public parks in the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and Germany during World Wars I and II. Governments encouraged people to plant Victory Gardens not only to supplement their rations, but also to boost morale. Victory Garden. A garden with lots of asparagus spears in a phalanx formation. I love that definition, Lord Portico. That... Yes, I like it. But not quite accurate historically, but I like it creatively. Used along with rationing stamps and cards to reduce pressure on the food supply. Besides indirectly aiding the war effort, these gardens were also considered a civil morale booster in that gardeners could feel empowered by their contribution of labor and rewarded by the produce grown. This made Victory Gardens a part of daily life on the home front. So, you can explore there. It's got some information about Canadian programs, US, Australian programs, British ones, more US. I don't know specifically what programs are represented in the boxes that I have today. I do know we have some British stuff for sure, and definitely have US stuff. I don't think we have any Canadian or Australian in our collections. I could be wrong, but I also am not certain which items were in the collection that got the water damage and is presently somewhere. So, anyway. Wait, what? Historical terms? What about historical terms? Did I say something? Was there something? I don't know what the historical terms was for. But also, that's a partial command. Oh, for your nonsense. Okay. I mean, it's fine. Basement fruit and vegetable storage for Victory Gardens. The preservation of fresh vegetables and fruit is just as important as raising them. Okay, so this is going to be all about how to store your canned or jarred stuff. I'm guessing. I wonder. No, I don't think we still have it. No, I'm sure we don't. If Elixir shows up, we can ask her about jars of food preserves that people have tried to give to the archives. We generally do not want those. They're generally not super useful for us. The preservation of the preservation of fresh vegetables and fruit is just as important as raising them. This is particularly important if the full benefit is to be received from Victory Gardens. Satisfactory, low-cost storage can be provided in most basements if insulation and ventilation requirements are met. Partition walls built of lightweight concrete masonry units are economical and will help provide satisfactory insulation. The plans herein show several possible locations for these storages and the details of ventilation and insulation. Very often, the construction of only one new wall is needed to enclose a room under a porch or bay window. Only 2 new walls are needed to enclose a room when built in a corner of the basement. It is advisable to have a window in one outside wall in which a ventilating shaft or louver can be installed. However, the room may be ventilated by 2 small openings, one with a cold air duct to the floor, the other with a louver. The cross-section drawings show details of 2 methods for ventilation. In cold climates, provisions should be made for closing the openings when necessary for protection against freezing. The room may be equipped with slatted shelves on which fruit and vegetables may be stored, or crates with open sides or bottoms may be used to hold the fresh produce. These may be stacked up loosely to permit ventilation. The ceiling should be made tight and insulated. The entrance door should be of double-boarded construction and should fit tightly in the opening to prevent air leakage. Your local concrete products manufacturer will be glad to estimate number and kind of concrete masonry units needed for your job. He can also put you in touch with a local mason. For interior masonry walls, not in contact with the soil, use a mortar mix of 1 volume Portland cement to 1 volume of lime putty or hydrated lime to 6 volumes of damp, loose mortar sand, or 1 volume of masonry cement meeting the requirements for Type 2 of Federal Master Specifications, and not more than 3 volumes of damp, loose mortar sand. For exterior walls, in contact with the soil, use a mortar mix of 1 volume Portland cement to 3 volumes of damp, loose mortar sand, to which may be added not more than 10 pounds of hydrated lime or lime putty per sack of cement. Okay. We actually have a big engineering program here, as well as an architecture program. And so what's funny is that this is part of our history of food and drink collections. But I also feel like it has relevance to both the architecture and structural engineering programs. Which I would not have known had I not specifically been looking at this for this show, that there were items here in this collection that had relevance to architecture and engineering. Tag it for all the things! Yeah! A concrete masonry fruit and vegetable storage placed in the basement takes up little space. So it's like a root cellar. What's interesting to me is, like, it's very specific in its description of how to lay it out, how to do the storage. And I'm just thinking of sorry, as I was reading it and it was talking about slatted shelves, crates with open sides or bottoms, because all of that is to allow ventilation and prevent spoilage. And what was going through my brain while I was reading that was episodes of Kitchen Nightmares, where they go into the walk-in fridge and it's just all spoiled food everywhere. And I'm like, this is giving specific instructions on how to avoid that. Anyway, that's where my brain went. All right, so let's see. I'm gonna zoom out just a little bit. It's a manual zoom, pardon me, while I make it happen. Okay. We have the general view. These are 8x8 by 16-inch concrete blocks. And you can see they're pretty standard as far as like the concrete blocks that we would expect today. And it looks like they're building it up against the current foundation wall. I do not know what happened. Music? I'm gonna reload music. Maybe? Am I still here? Is the stream still live? I think it is. I'm just making sure that the whole internet just didn't die because the Pretzel Rock's website decided and so I was like, okay, is it just this website that's being mean, or was it the entire internet? Okay, we're back. It was just a hiccup. Okay, let's see. So in the cross section, this is going to show one of the ventilation methods they talked about. Fresh air inlet and foul air outlet built into cellar window. Okay, so they've built in the fresh air intake to pull air in and down so that it circulates through the room, and then it exits out the top. The other ventilation method that they had was pulling in fresh air, again, releasing it at the floor level, and then letting it exit through a different place. Interesting. Suggested locations for your fruit and vegetable storage. And remember, this, while it is focused on how to preserve the produce of your victory garden, it is ultimately a sales tool for the concrete company. So under a bay window, in the corner of the basement, or under the porch. Basically, root cellars. But yeah, I guess some cement blocks, and it wouldn't be that hard to stick one on there. This number CP56 from June of 1942 is going to present what I've actually seen a couple of these. Like, this is an actual, like a root cellar, but it's not just adding it on in your basement or attaching it to your house. It's actually, like, separate. I've seen some of these on farms where it's like, it's just like any other outbuilding. It's got its own spot, a short walk from the main house, and yeah. Arched roof underground storage cellar for vegetables, fruit, or eggs. Also doubles as a bomb shelter. Sort of. It's not really deep enough for that, but it would potentially be useful as a tornado shelter. I mean, it would help as a bomb shelter as long as it doesn't take a direct hit. But it might be much more functional as a tornado shelter. A small underground concrete storage cellar or cave often is a solution to the problem of economical and satisfactory storage of fruit and vegetables for home use. It is also an ideal place for cooling and storing eggs until delivery. This would have been before US eggs were refrigerated all the time. I'm not certain if anybody is here that's not from the US. I believe that the reason our eggs and milk are stored in the fridge is because they've undergone pasteurization and will spoil faster if they're not refrigerated. And in other parts of the world, the reason that they're more shelf stable is because they've not undergone the same pasteurization process. Does that sound correct? I don't remember. And I'm not 100% certain on that. But if anybody from elsewhere in the world has any insight, I know there's like shelf stable milk in places in Europe for sure. And I'm fairly certain a lot of eggs don't go in the fridge either. Yeah, I'm not 100% certain, Fluidan, but if anybody cares to look it up and tell me, that'd be great. My understanding is that us Americans wash off some of the material on the shells that makes it possible for bad things to get in them. Ah, okay. There's definitely something in the processing of eggs in the US that means that they need to go in the fridge. Wash off some of the material. Okay. I don't really understand shelf-stable milk, though. I know it exists. I know the US doesn't have it. But that makes sense. I think I might remember some of that from the American Egg Board episode. But it's been a long time since we did that one. Thank you, Lord Portico. And Hannah. Okay. The arched roof storage cellar shown herein can be built without the use of critical material. The roof is built in an arch shape to eliminate the need for reinforcement. When built on level ground, the storage cellar is placed about 4 feet underground and approximately 4 feet above ground. The soil taken from the excavation is banked over the arched roof to a depth of 1 to 2 feet. When the storage cellar is built into a side hill, a stairway may not be needed. The cellar may be made any length desired. The width should not be changed from the dimensions shown without first getting advice from a structural engineer as to the thickness of concrete, forming details, and so on. Don't just modify it on your own. Ventilation is obtained through a louver in the door and an 8-inch concrete pipe set in the roof near the back wall. Yeah, I've definitely seen exactly that construction before. Both openings have adjustable dampers to regulate the airflow. The excavation may all be done at one time before any concrete is placed. When this is done, inside forms are used, as shown on the back side of the sheet. The curved sections are laid out according to the pattern. 4 sections are needed. Supports are placed 2 feet apart. Long storage cellars may be built in sections if desired, 8, 10, or 12, or any other even number at a time. May be possible, however, to use earth as the inside form. If this is done, excavation for footings and wall is made and soil heaped up in the center to conform to the curve of the roof arch. Okay. Anyway, it's similar, and the reasons you would want it similar to the indoor one that we looked at. The arched roof concrete storage cellar makes a satisfactory storage for canned fruit, apples, potatoes, vegetables, eggs, and other farm products. Like, yeah, I've seen that mound with the door and the like little what looks like a chimney pipe coming out the back of it. So the pipe sticking up out of the back. Yeah. This is more what comes to mind for me when I think of a root cellar. But another place to store the produce of your victory garden. Although this one doesn't specifically talk about victory gardens, but seemed relevant. That's interesting. Not exactly where I thought we were going to start with victory gardens, but I didn't know that cement construction was going to be our first topic. Okay. This folder is from the Virginia Cooperative Extension, which is part of Virginia Tech. Has been around for a long time. Extension service is part of the land grant mission, where Virginia Tech has a responsibility to serve the entire Commonwealth of Virginia as a Virginia land grant. Home demonstration clubs, that's not gonna... Well, oh, it does mention victory gardens. Let's see. Department of Horticulture, Virginia Polytechnic Institute, 1944 Home Garden Program, prepared for leaders of home demonstration clubs. So home demonstration clubs, this is part of the extension unit where they had people who would literally travel out to people's homes and demonstrate for them new techniques or new technologies that would be of use in the home. In more of a, like, as a service rather than, like, trying to sell the products, but, like, showing people things like, hey, here's a vacuum cleaner, here's what it does, or that sort of, like, these were new things, and people didn't they didn't have television, so they couldn't, I mean, by 1944 they would have, but when extension started, they didn't have television, they couldn't see it, and the things were somewhat expensive, newfangled technology. They might not be able to go into town and see one. So the extension agents would travel around and demonstrate the new technology. All right, so June, insect and disease control. Study Victory Gardener's Handbook number 525. We'll see if we can find that. I think that's the only mention here of victory gardens on this, but okay. This is a trifold, so I'm going to start here because this is the front page. The victory slogan for Virginia farm families: grow your own food for freedom. Virginia Agricultural and Mechanical College and Polytechnic Institute and the United States Department of Agriculture Cooperating Extension Division. Jonathan R. Hutchison, Director, Blacksburg, Virginia, February 1942. All right, so let's see. Eat these foods every day. 1 pint to 1 quart of milk. 1 to 3 servings of butter. 4 to 5 servings of fruits and vegetables. If possible, these should include 1 green or yellow vegetable, 1 serving of tomato, 1 potato, and 2 others. 1 egg a day, or at least 3 or 4 a week. 1 serving of meat, fish, cheese, dried beans or peas. 1 to 2 servings of whole grain breads or cereals, cracked wheat, water ground meal. I don't know if you could hear that. A jet just went over, which doesn't happen very often. I was like, that sounds like thunder. But no, it was a jet. Occasional, but not often. And then you heard it. Yeah, it happens sometimes. We're not on any direct flight paths normally, but usually it's some sort of military craft. Depends on what's going on around. It's more common when there's a sporting event, but there isn't one today, not until Saturday. So I don't know. Anyway, fats and sweets as needed to satisfy the appetite. Use honey and molasses to replace sugar. I love as needed to satisfy the appetite. So this is basically the food pyramid. Didn't we look up recently when the food pyramid was created? I'm looking. The first food pyramid was published in Sweden in 1974. The United States, the USDA, published their first one in 1992. But this is basically the same information that goes into the food pyramid. And there's a reason why they're giving this advice. And I only know this because of Sterling. I only know this because Sterling did an exhibit recently focused on propaganda. And I'm gonna pull up a thing because I can show you part of it. But while I was finalizing the work on that exhibit, hang on. Nope. That's one of them. Where's the one I want? Aha, okay. Some of the stuff that Sterling found for the propaganda exhibit was part of a program that basically existed to teach Americans about nutrition. And so I'm gonna pull some images into the stream here in just 1 second. I just needed to get them physically in a place where I can still see the controls. Okay. Actually, there might be an easier way. Now that I've started this way. It's fine. It's fine. I just realized. What do you mean? Well, I tried. It said operation not permitted. I tried to open the image using the web browser. Ah, well, okay, it worked that time. Whatever. Give me 1 second here. I'm vamping. This one. And then... Okay. All right. So this eat these foods every day portion of this, the reason why they're giving this nutrition information it goes along with this program from the United States. Hold on a second here. I'm trying to get it so you all can see the whole thing. I'll just take away the Chiron real quick. So it was the Make America Strong campaign during World War II. And I'm just going to find real quick the caption that existed for that. Because I don't remember enough to be able to extemporize. I just remember like, hey, this is related. It's fine. I didn't prepare the exhibit things with the intent of sharing them on the internet. Never occurred to me. Okay. Come on. All right, so the Make America Strong thing. This was, again, the Extension Service and U.S. Department of Agriculture. So same kind of people that were publishing this trifold, or the same groups that were publishing this trifold, put together this campaign. And here's what we said in describing this and related posters in the exhibit. Before World War II, the science of nutrition was not well understood. Scientists knew that protein, energy, and minerals made for a healthy diet, but they did not know the specifics. With the approach of World War II, the government was very concerned about malnourishment among the citizenry following the Great Depression. The Make America Strong poster campaign was created by the United States Department of Agriculture Extension Service and included 13 posters promoting the importance of dietary needs, healthy eating habits, and ways to fight food insecurity. So this poster that is on screen right now, this was the introductory poster to the collection. So this was the main, like, Make America Strong initial image. I only have 3 of them scanned because we only used 3 of them for the exhibit. We have all 13. But here we have these build strength. Meals that are ample, meals well prepared, and meals rich in protective foods. I don't remember, did we look at this during the propaganda episode? Or did we discover this after that episode? Y'all have to let me know if you've seen these things before, because I don't remember. I feel like I might have gone on a tangent about what is protective food on stream before, but I don't remember. And then this was the last one in the series. Let's get to work to make Americans strong. It struck me when we first saw this that it had a lot of similarities to later propaganda in the political arena, specifically Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump and their political campaigns. So it was just interesting. But anyway, essentially, nutrition was pretty new. The science of nutrition was pretty new in World War II time. And so while they're sending out these things talking about like victory gardens and how to like grow your own food, it's patriotic, it's going to support the war effort, they're also giving basic guidance as to here's what you should be eating. So this is like the basis for what later becomes the food pyramid, but it's the same kind of information, just wasn't delivered in a pyramidal form. But just trying to give that information to residents of the U.S. to combat malnutrition. Does that make sense? I think it should make sense. Anyway, so let's see. Have a good garden. Have a permanent garden near the house, large enough for family needs, about half an acre, located on rich soil that will not wash away. Now, if I was living in a city, where am I supposed to get about a half an acre of rich soil to grow my garden? But anyway, general guidance for suburban to rural Americans, I suppose. Plan the garden. Have several leafy vegetables, such as cabbage, kale, lettuce, turnip salad, mustard, spinach, asparagus, and rhubarb. Root vegetables, such as potatoes, sweet potatoes, onions, carrots, beets, turnips, parsnips, and salsify? What is salsify? I do not know this term. Okay, I'm looking up salsify, and I still don't know what it is. What is this? Tragopagon porifolius. A plant cultivated for its ornamental flower and edible root. It also grows wild in many places and is one of the most widely known species of salsify genus. Tragopagon. It is commonly known as purple or common salsify, oyster plant, vegetable oyster, Jerusalem star, and Jack go to bed, or simply salsify, although these last two names are also applied to other species. Okay, so this might not be the specific salsify. I still have no idea what this is. Grows around 1.2 meters in height. Stem is largely unbranched and leaves are somewhat grass-like. It exudes a milky juice from the stems. Its taproots can become 15 to 30 centimeters long, 2 to 5 centimeters thick. In the UK, it flowers from May to September, but in warmer areas such as California, it can be found in bloom from April. Fruits are beaked achenes, also sometimes called achene, and occasionally achenium or echinocarp, a type of simple dry fruit produced by many species of flowering plants. Monocarpellite and indehiscent. I do not know that term. Single seed that nearly fills the pericarp. Okay. Rod shaped with light ribs, but that's the fruit of the plant. But that's not what gets eaten. It's the root that's eaten, apparently. The root and young shoots of T. porifolius can be eaten after being boiled. The freshly grown leaves can be eaten or cooked raw. It was cultivated for that purpose. It is mentioned by classical authors such as Pliny the Elder. Cultivation in Europe began in the 16th century in France and Italy. In the UK, it was initially grown for its flower and later became a mildly popular vegetable in the 18th century, but then declined in popularity. Presently, it's cultivated and eaten most frequently in France, Germany, Italy, and Russia. However, in modern times, it has tended to be replaced by Spanish salsify as a cultivated crop. White French, Géant French, Mammoth Sandwich Island, Improved Mammoth Sandwich Island. I am completely unfamiliar with this plant. Grown similarly to other root vegetables like parsnip and carrots, but what? A latex derived from the root can be used as chewing gum. The plant is edible, but the roots and leaves are most palatable when collected before the flower stalk is produced. The root is noted for having a mild taste when uncooked, described as like asparagus or oysters, from which the plant derives its alternative name of oyster plant. Outer layers can be scraped off, with the root dipped in cold water to preserve its color. If too tough for eating, they can be boiled with a pinch of baking soda and a change of water. Raw young roots can be grated for use in salads, but older roots are better cooked. Can be added to soups, stews, or stir-fries. Salsify puree, alone, including potato, is recommended with fish. The flowering shoots can be used like asparagus, either raw or cooked, and the flowers can be added to a salad, while the sprouted seeds can be used in salads or sandwiches. I still have basically no idea what this is. What in the what? I have never heard of this. Ever. Hoffman's Schwarzwald. Black Gorzanera, growing at Hadigar. Wow. True salsify, aka oyster plant, has a white root and purple flowers. Meanwhile, false, aka black or Spanish salsify, has a black root and yellow flowers. While different species, both are composites, and farmers grow both and use them in essentially the same way. Native to Western Eurasia, and people grow them primarily for their long, slender tap roots. Have a unique flavor, sort of a mild mineral taste, evocative of the seashore. I had no idea. Sorry, I didn't know that there was an entire category of taproot that I had never heard of, and that was in common usage to the point where it was included here as a recommended thing to grow in your victory garden. Anyway, fruit vegetables such as tomatoes, corn, beans, lima beans, peas, cucumbers, peppers, and squash. I've never heard them called fruit vegetables, but that makes so much sense. Small fruits such as raspberries, strawberries, and grapes. Prepare the soil thoroughly. Spread 6 to 7 loads of manure on your half-acre garden and plow under as early as possible. This implies that you should have ready access to manure. Let soil remain rough until ready to plant. Harrow thoroughly. A firm, well-worked seed bed is important. Fertilize. Use from 400 to 500 pounds of a 5-10-5 on your half-acre garden. Does anyone know what that means? What is a 5-10-5? I assume it's referring to a type of fertilizer. Cultivate the garden, often enough to kill weeds. Do not dig too deeply. Control pests. For chewing insects, spray or dust with Derris compound. Ooh, what is Derris compound? I'm curious now. To spray, use 10 tablespoons full of Derris root, 5% rotenone, to 3 gallons of water. To dust, use 3/4 of 1% rotenone Derris compound. For plant lice, dissolve an inch cube of soap in a quart of water and spray with this mixture. What is Derris? Apparently it's a leguminous plant. I'm learning. Derris is a genus of leguminous plant. Contains 65 species which range from eastern Africa to the Indian subcontinent, Southeast Asia, New Guinea, northern Australia, and the Southwest Pacific Islands. It's interesting to me, like, during wartime, telling people how to grow their garden, and they tell them to use something that is not native to America. The roots of D. elliptica contain rotenone, a strong insecticide, and fish poison. So that's what they were going for, rotenone. An odorless, colorless, crystalline isoflavone. Occurs naturally in the seeds and stems of several plants, such as the jicama vine, and in the roots of several other members of the Fabaceae. Interesting. Interesting. Also, jicama is one of my favorite vegetables, but you eat the root. So I didn't even know it was a vine. It's also been very difficult to get around here lately. Despite the secondary compounds found in Derris, they serve as food plants for many lepidopteran larvae. Interesting. So butterfly caterpillars like to eat them. That's neat. I always learn something really fascinating. Interesting. It's a natural insecticide. You need to have 2 good cows. So not only do you need to have a half an acre for your garden, you need to have 2 good cows as well. 2 milk cows, well fed and cared for, should supply the milk and butter needs of the family, and some skim milk for chickens, pigs, and calves. Plan to have 1 cow freshen in the fall and 1 in the spring. Give your cows plenty of clean water, salt in a box where they can get it easily, plenty of green leafy legume hay in winter. They'll give more milk. Hay from 1 acre of alfalfa, lespedeza, clover, or soybeans. I do not know what lespedeza is. If properly cured and stored, should carry 1 cow through the winter. Feed 10 to 15 pounds a day. Some grain mixture in addition to hay or pasture, 6 to 8 quarts a day if the cow gives 3 to 4 gallons of milk. A good grain mixture is 100 pounds of corn and cob meal, 100 pounds ground barley or oats, 100 pounds wheat bran, 100 pounds peanut, linseed, cottonseed, or soybean meal. Yum. Okay, but you also need to have 30 laying hens. 30 hens. well fed and cared for, should lay enough eggs for family use and for hatching. Each hen should lay not less than 100 eggs a year. Hatch 200 eggs each spring, March or April. Keep 20 pullets each fall. Save 75 chickens for eating. To feed the chickens, let's see, well-fed chickens lay more eggs. A good mash can be made using equal parts of cornmeal, ground wheat, ground oats or barley, wheat bran, and meat scrap or fish meal. Meat scrap and fish meal can be bought at most feed stores. Use feed hoppers. Give them all the whole grain they will eat an hour before they go to roost. If you do not have the mash, feed the chickens all the corn and wheat they will eat and 3/4 pound of meat scrap for each 30 hens. Skim milk or buttermilk may take the place of meat scrap. In the spring, when chickens can eat bugs and worms, the milk or meat scrap may be reduced. Protect chickens from the weather with as good a house as possible. And have at least 3 hogs, each weighing about 225 pounds at killing time. These will take care of the pork needs for the average farm family. If the price of pigs and feed is high, it may be cheaper to grow 2 hogs to heavier weights and use waste products from the farm table for feed. Butchering. Do not kill until freezing weather in November or December. Shoulders, sides, hams, and jowls should be cured. Loin, ribs, and liver may be canned. Trimmings may be made into sausage. Parts of the head and feet may be used for scrapple and canning. Fat parts go into lard. I love that they just mention scrapple like everybody knows what it is. I do, but I don't think it's a universal. Scrapple. Also known by the Pennsylvania Dutch name panhaas, pan tenderloin in English, is a traditional mush of fried pork scraps and trimmings combined with cornmeal and wheat flour, often buckwheat flour, and spices. Commonly considered an ethnic food of the Pennsylvania Dutch, including the Mennonites and Amish. Scraps of meat left over from butchering, not otherwise used or sold, were made into scrapple to avoid waste. Yeah, so based on this pamphlet, don't live in the city. That's definitely the message I'm getting. To feed the hogs, you need corn or other grain, skim milk or buttermilk, pasture or forage, waste products from the farm table, hardwood ashes with salt added. Wheat middlings are good in getting little pigs starting on feed. I mean, but you gotta grow your own food for freedom. I mean, this does specifically, it is aimed at farm families, so I think if it was targeted more generally, they would probably have different information, but it is targeted at farm families, so I suppose it's okay to expect that they would have a half an acre, a couple of cows, some chickens, and some hogs. I had not registered that it was targeted specifically to farm families, so when I first looked at it, I was like, wow. Let's see here. I want to find more just specifically Victory Garden things. Again, they want Victory Gardener's Handbook, number 525. I would love to find that handbook. American cheese. Money. This is not Victory Gardens, but money. Save by living at home. This is from 1932, but boy, it seems appropriate to today. I love that. Oh, geez. It looks like basically similar information to the pamphlet we were just looking at, but really? So I won't go live on Mars then? Good advice. What a title. Money saved by living at home. I'm gonna end up needing to like take a picture of that just to have. Vegetable garden suggestions. Make a farm, make a living. How to store your Victory Garden products. Sure. Like, I don't understand, like, as opposed to what? Because this one also ends, why not live at home and live better? I know. Okay. How to store your Victory Garden products. Unless you provide adequate and proper storage, much of the produce from your Victory Garden will go to waste. Some fruits and vegetables must be canned, brined, or dried for safekeeping, but others, especially the root crops, may be stored without processing. Satisfactory storage may be provided in the basement under a house or outbuilding, in a bank cellar, or in mounds, also called pits or banks. The place of storage should be as near the kitchen as possible. The bank cellar. A bank cellar can be made in any suitable hillside. Simply dig a room in the side of a hill. Simply. Provide proper support to hold the soil along the sides and overhead, and install a frost-proof door and some means of ventilation. Locate the cellar near the house, if possible, and in a place where surface water will not give trouble. The size, of course, will vary with the amount of storage space needed. One 8 feet wide, 8 feet long, and 7 feet high should meet the needs of the average family, including room to shelve canned goods. I just love... I love the casualness of simply dig a room in the side of a hill. To support the roof, use heavy planks or concrete, and use heavy planks, concrete, or masonry for the walls. To provide ventilation, install a 12-inch vent through the ceiling to a point above ground, and run a tube from the floor level on a slight downgrade to the outside as a fresh air inlet. Or an inlet may be provided by an opening with cover in the lower part of the door. Complete plans and instructions for building bank cellars and large storage buildings may be had free from county agents or by writing the Virginia Agricultural Extension Division, Blacksburg, Virginia. Okay. Then we get a plan for basement storage, similar to what we had before. The most ideal type of storage can be provided in the basement of a house or outbuilding. The steps to the basement should not be too narrow or steep, should be well lighted, and have a handrail for additional safety. If the basement is, I love just, it's so nonchalant. Like, make sure that your steps have lighting and a handrail. If the basement is heated, one corner may be partitioned off for the storage space in order that the temperature can, if possible, be kept below 50 degrees. Huh. Alright, let's... well-stored canned foods keep better. Keeping canned foods in a cool place aids in preventing spoilage. Temperature under 60 degrees is desirable, but 32 degrees and below must be avoided. So for our non-US folks, 60 degrees would be 15 and a half degrees Celsius. And of course, 32 degrees here is referencing Fahrenheit, so that would be 0 degrees Celsius. So you don't want it to go below freezing. Too much dampness will cause rusting and corroding of jar tops and should be avoided. Provide enough space. Shelves 10 to 12 inches deep will hold 2 rows of jars. For 100 pints or quarts, 2 deep. The clearance between tops of jars and the next shelf should be 2 inches. It's very specific. Before putting canned goods in storage, wipe off the jars with a damp cloth, count them, and keep a record. It is well to date the jars so that the oldest ones will be used first. Place jars on shelves so that all apples or tomatoes, etc. are together and may be easily located. As jars are emptied, rearrange unused ones to provide space for the empties. My grandmother had shelves in the basement, and one year they had just a little garden out back of the house where my grandpa decided to plant watermelons. And boy, did those watermelons grow. They had so many watermelons. They put up a sign on the road that just said, "Come and take watermelons." They just wanted people to take away. They just had way too many. So my grandma ended up pickling a bunch of watermelon rind, and I just remember those shelves filled with jar after jar of pickled watermelon rind. But like I remember seeing that kind of setup and her like wiping off the jars before putting, like, it's like she read these instructions. Where good basement or bank storage cannot be provided, mounds can be used with satisfactory results. They should be in a well-drained location in the garden or elsewhere near the kitchen. The mound may be of any convenient size, but it will be found more satisfactory to have several small mounds rather than one large one. When a mound is once opened, it is best to remove all the contents at once. Hence, the advisability of small mounds. It is also well to store small quantities of all root crops together. It will then be necessary to open only one mound to get a supply of all. A convenient size will hold 2 or 3 bushels. To make a mound of this size, dig out 6 or 8 inches of soil from an area 3 to 4 feet in diameter. Lay 3 to 4 inches of dry straw or corn stalks in the bottom and pile the vegetables in a cone, as shown in the drawing above. Cover the pile with a layer of straw or corn stalks, and over this place a layer of dirt 3 inches deep. As winter approaches, increase the dirt covering until it's about 6 inches deep, and in areas where the winter is very cold, make the dirt 10 to 12 inches deep. Dig a shallow trench around and away from the mound to give thorough drainage. Vegetables that will keep well in mounds are Irish potatoes, beets, turnips, carrots, rutabagas, parsnips, and salsify. Parsnips and salsify may be left in the ground, however, as freezing does not injure them. I didn't know about this method of basically just like taking your vegetables, wrapping them in straw, and covering them in dirt as a method for storing them. That never would have occurred to me. Cabbage can be kept very well in any climate by turning the heads upside down and covering with enough dirt to protect them from alternate freezing and thawing. Good drainage is essential. Cabbage stored this way in a long mound is shown above. I literally never would have thought that cabbage was something you could store like that and have it last. This one is dumbfounding to me. Did any of you know that this was a thing that could be done? Like, I knew root cellars, but like a storage mound for vegetables? This is the first time I've heard of that. I grew up in the city, obviously, but still. Let's see. To store dried foods, another type of mound storage using a barrel on its side is shown here. Partitions may be used to keep one kind of vegetable separate from another. A board for covering the end of the barrel is shown at the right. It's new to you as well? To store dried foods, dried, evaporated, or dehydrated foods must be kept dry. They should be packaged and stored just as soon as they are completely dry. Small packages, jars, or cans, which are moisture-proof, are best. Odd jars without standard canning tops are excellent. Food in bags must be protected from rats and insects. Large cans with tight covers give good protection. Packaging foods in family-sized servings allows the use of some dried products without exposing the rest. Hanging dried foods in cloth or paper bags is not advisable. Amazing. Okay, so a storage guide. Salsify and turnips. Salsify and parsnips. Leave them in the ground. Okay. Beets and carrots. The astracees here are in eastern and south side Virginia. Beets and carrots may be left in the ground and covered with straw. Cabbage and turnips may be left in the ground and covered partly with soil, and sweet potatoes of the dry type, such as Big Stem Jersey, may be stored in pits. So beets and carrots in well-ventilated basement, bank cellar, or mound. It wants moisture and good ventilation, but you don't want hot and dry. Cabbage and turnips in a mound or bank cellar wants good ventilation, but don't store it under the house because of strong odors and alternate freezing and thawing. Is another thing to avoid. Onions, store them in the attic, barn, or shed, where they will not be exposed to severe freezing. They want dry, cool, and good ventilation. Don't store them in damp places. Don't trim the stem too close. Leave 2 to 4 inches. Pumpkins and other squash. Store them in the attic, barn, or shed where they'll not freeze. They also want dryness, good ventilation, and places above ground. Do not let them touch one another. Irish potatoes. Isn't that just a potato? What I don't understand, why are they calling them Irish potatoes? Is that as opposed to sweet potatoes? The terminology is what's baffling to me there. In mound, bank, cellar, barn, or on smokehouse floor. Protect from freezing. They want good ventilation, coolness, and darkness. Avoid freezing, excessive dampness, or direct light. Avoid direct light? I've never considered that when storing potatoes. Sweet potatoes want to be stored in a dry place where they'll not freeze. Curing and storing near a stove or furnace is most satisfactory. Best conditions, freedom from disease, scratches, and cuts. Proper drying or curing immediately after digging. But What to avoid: breaking the skin, freezing, too much moisture, or improper curing. Interesting. Let's see. This has all been fascinating. It's around the clock. That's not part of what we're looking for. Ooh, 2 versions of it. Garden suggestion. First aid for electrical appliances. That one's also not Victory Garden related, so I'm just gonna skim past some of those, but there's some interesting things in this collection. Let's see, we got mocktails. That's also not Victory Gardens. When is this from, though? 94 for the mocktails. Recipes featuring cheese. All of this is too new for what we're looking for. Emergency canning. E307. Well, it might be the right time period, but I'm not certain, and it's similar to what we already looked at, so I'm not gonna look at it. Cause there's other stuff. And maybe we can talk about growing things instead of just preserving them. Who knew I was gonna be talking so much about canning? Okay, let's look at the World War II food ephemera collection. Something in here might be of interest. I mean, something in here should be of interest or the collection wouldn't have been pulled, but just don't want to get things mixed together. Because I'm not, in fact, cooking at the moment, so I don't want to mix things. Still. Money! Save by living at home! $2012. Or 6. I just need to write down where I pulled that from because I want to scan it before I put it back. Because it's too good. Okay. Sorry. Now I'm just all distracted and I'm sure that's super entertaining for you all. Okay. Let's see what we have here. World War II food ephemera collection. Alright, so this says dessert, hospitality, kitchen equipment, meal planning, meats, menus, newsletters, there's possibly Victory Garden stuff in the newsletters, nationwide news, Pittsburgh's Fightin food communique, nutrition booklets, nutrition pamphlets, vegetables, canning labels, wheat and flour pamphlets. I'm gonna pull up the binding aid because I'm not sure specifically what Victory Garden material is in here. World War II food ephemera collection. Helps if I spell correctly. All right, so it looks like folder 3 in kitchen equipment. There's something. And that might be the only specific Victory Garden item in here. So let's look at it real quick, and then we'll look at one of the other collections. Wartime suggestions to help you get the most out of your refrigerator. That's not the one that we were trying to look at, though. But interesting. Oven drying. One way to save Victory Garden surplus. So again, this is going to be similar to canning. We're still looking at preservation methods rather than like how to grow. But sure, okay. U.S. Department of Agriculture. Let's see what this pamphlet says. If you have a gas or electric range in the kitchen, the oven offers a simple and satisfactory way to dry fruits and vegetables for winter meals. Apples to turnips. Most foods successfully dried in the sun or in a home dryer can be dried in an oven. The drying table in this folder gives directions for 39 fruits and vegetables from apples to turnips. If there's a star on the list, it's dried sweet corn because of its good flavor. Wait, what? If there's a star, okay. If there's a star on the list, it's dried sweet corn because of its good flavor and because corn is the hardest vegetable to can successfully at home. Home drying doesn't suit lettuce, melons, cucumbers, radishes. Asparagus can be dried, but it's not so good as most dried vegetables. Okay, dried sweet corn, okay. Understand at the start, oven drying is a small scale drying. An oven can take 4 to 8 pounds, preferably 6 of a prepared fruit or vegetable at one drying load. Takes most of a day for the load to dry. Oven drying is a watchman's job. Never go off and leave food drying in an oven. Never go off and leave food drying in an oven. Never leave your oven on. Sorry. Gas pressure may change. If trays should catch fire, turn off the heat and close the oven door. If you buy trays... What? Okay. Not gonna go into all of that. Tray making. Thermometer needed. Without a thermometer, it is almost impossible to control temperature in an oven drying. Any deep fat, candy, dairy, or oven thermometer will do, provided it registers below 150 degrees and up to 250 degrees or higher. To pre-cook vegetables and fruits, use a preserving kettle. Steam the food if you can. Huh. Cheesecloth basket, paring knife. If you sulfur outdoors. Sulfur is a verb? If you can sulfur light-colored fruits outdoors, get a box big enough to be turned upside down over trays and a dish beside them. Cut a flap near the bottom of box for air to enter. This flap is closed after the sulfur has burned. The sulfur, 1 level teaspoon per pound of prepared fruit, is wrapped in paper and put in a discarded dish or pan beside the trays. The paper is lighted and the box set snug against the ground over the trays and dish to prevent loss of sulfur fumes. But why? I assume it's a method for preservation, but I've never heard of sulfuring fruits and vegetables. That's just... that one's a new one on me. Oven ready, not too hot. Be a clock watcher. Alright, let's look at this table. So apples. Pare them, core them, cut in 1/4 inch slices or rings. Sulfur outdoors, 30 minutes, or dip in solution. Spread not more than 1/2 inch deep on the trays and overlap the rings. They're dry when they're pliable, have a springy feel, and are creamy white. Apricots, see the instructions for peaches. Berries, leave them whole, except you want to cut strawberries in half. No visible moisture when crushed is when they're done. Amazing. I mean, this makes total sense that this kind of guide would exist. But I've also never really thought about it. I'm always just fascinated by the things that we find. Maths have entered. Oven drying arithmetic. The tabulation below gives some idea of the yield of dried food that can be obtained from a peck of a fruit or vegetable, as bought or picked. Weights per peck given below are approximate. Yes, they are measuring in peck. A peck is an imperial and United States customary unit of dry volume, equivalent to 2 dry gallons or 8 dry quarts or 16 dry pints. An imperial peck is equivalent to 9.09 liters, and a U.S. customary peck is equivalent to 8.81 liters. 2 mecks make a kenning, obsolete, and 4 pecks make a bushel. Okay. And we have some weights given for apples, lima beans, snap beans, which are sometimes also called snap peas, but beets, broccoli, carrots, celery, corn, greens, onions, peaches, pears, peas, pumpkins, squash, and tomatoes. Or tomatoes, depending on how you want to say it. They're both correct. Okay. Sure. Let's see. What do we have in the military and wartime cookery collection? Folders 3 through 4 and 7 through 12. Ah, World War I and World War II. Let us find out. Although not specifically lettuce. Folders 3 and 4. And what did I say? 7 through 12. All right. Let's jump back to the 19 teens and look at some World War I era stuff. This is not specific to Victory Gardens, but the first thing I found when I opened this folder. Notice, this is not a guest towel. It's a genuine World War I RAF flight scarf. We've got Snoopy and Woodstock. Made by Hallmark. It looks like a paper, napkin. That's cute. Training school for bakers and cooks at Camp Lee, Petersburg, Virginia. That's not Victory Gardens. But Private Robert B. Thomas of Company L, the 18th Battalion IRC. I'm not sure what IRC means. I got part of it, but I don't know IRC. Has satisfactorily completed the course of instruction for first cook and has passed the requisite examination. October 17th, 1918. Welcome home World War veterans. This is going to be a menu, I bet. Oh, it's not. It's a program from a memorial service, it looks like. Oh, nope. Banquet. Menu. I was right. It is a program for a memorial service, but it's here because it's a menu. Still, not Victory Gardens. This is what doing research is like. We're looking for material about Victory Gardens. I pulled the most likely places to find it, but I've not looked through these before, so I don't know for certain that there is anything about World War I Victory Gardens in these World War I folders. But we're looking through them to see what there might be. This is not Victory Gardens. It's another menu for the welcome home dinner tendered to the 11th U.S. Engineers by the Military Engineering Committee of New York at Hotel Pennsylvania, April 30th, 1919. And then we have a Thanksgiving Day menu from the U.S. Naval Air Base in Eastleigh, England, 28 November 1918. So it doesn't look like we have any World War I items that are specifically Victory Garden related. But let's continue and look at some of the World War II stuff. Don't let butter rationing scare you. Stretch your butter twice as far with the Knox Gelatin brand. Hey, that has relevance to 2 weeks ago. Knox Gelatin. Wait, stretch your butter using Knox? Mix Knox Gelatin with water, butter, salt, and evaporated milk. To stretch that butter, apparently. Anyway. Sugar-saving recipes. Meat extenders. How to use crackers to make your meat dishes last longer. That's my guess. Oh. Ground beef or lamb mixed with oatmeal. Stew meat and rutabaga. I mean, it makes sense. It all makes sense. Fightin food communique. September 43. Again, not specifically garden related. Ooh, that one, the next one has Victory Gardens mentioned at least. So this is from the Pillsbury company in Minneapolis. Maybe we'll all do a bit of reducing this winter. Tighten our belts, slenderize. At any rate, we all know there'll be shortage of more and more foods such as meat, eggs, butter, milk, canned goods. Prospect isn't too bad though. There will be enough food to maintain health, but less variety. For the housewife, this rationing makes it more of a trick to keep appetites from getting jaded. Calls for more ingenuity than ever to turn out tasty dishes. Leaves no margin for waste. There'll be less meat, fewer choice cuts, and it looks as if there will be fewer commercially canned vegetables, though government buying of canned foods is expected to ease up before long, permitting more to go on market for civilian purchase. Reasons for shortages have to do with rapid pace of Allied victories, not just supplies to our own boys and girls in service. As more victories are won, more food must be shipped overseas for occupied countries. Because the faster we invade and the faster the Axis goes to pieces, the more food will have to go to people in freed territories. As first to Sicily and now to Italy, or our victories will boomerang into anarchy and revolt. Our armies must help feed the hungry peoples they free. And even with these people rationed, as they will be, still our supplies will be greatly lowered. So, can what you can. Preserve, dry, pickle. Store a lot, too. Use foods in season as much as possible, and stretch rationed foods with flour and other plentiful foods. What we don't eat here, sent overseas, will save lives twice over. The lives of starving people and the lives of our men, who won't have to fight people to whom they bring food. Okay. Interesting. But not Victory Garden. Let me see what we got. Sorry, there's a reference to Jack Sprat. Many whispers heard about plans in the wind to provide the savers of salvage fat with an extra dividend of red ration points for turning it in. All right, this one mentions Victory Gardens, so let's look at it. This is the Communique number 3. November-December 1943. Special holiday issue. Okay. Food picture. What? Winter outlook. Fair. Enough to eat, but fewer dishes that make eating fun. Here's where Victory Gardens really begin to pay off. If homemakers are smart, their families needn't be without a single food element they need. The real job is to make menus tempting day in, day out. It's the old story of the proof of the pudding. Make what's good for them to eat, good to look at too. Why? Plenty of good old sturdy standbys, cereals, potatoes, sweet potatoes, beans, and peas. And remember that cereals are more than breakfast foods. Cereal foods include bread and other dishes made from flour. Incidentally, now all flour for home use must be enriched, and to new high standards too. Fresh fruits and vegetables are in seasonal short supply. They liven up the menu, you know. Less canned fruits and vegetables may be offset by preserved produce from last summer's victory gardens. Red meats and dairy products subject of much governmental debate. No likely improvement in sight. Enough food fats and oils to maintain present ration allowances. Looming headache. What? Steadily decreasing supplies of milk may force rationing any time. Probably can't be staved off much longer. Maybe the biggest headache and toughest job OPA ever handled. High ration points on butter, recent increases in point values on farm butter and certain cream cheeses, all straws in the wind, indicating severity of the fresh milk problem. Why? Manpower shortage. Many young dairy farmers gone to war or to work in war plants for high wages. Feed scarce. Production costs up sharply with milk prices held down. Dairy cows bringing high cash prices from butchers. Dairy farmers growing old and discouraged. And just more work than they can do. Simply, too many cows to milk. More work than they can do. Boy, that sounds... Rationing news. It's a victory food. Why don't you housewives buy an extra sack or two of Irish potatoes for your pantry or basement? Every sack you store at home is a sack that doesn't have to be stored in crowded warehouses. It's patriotic to buy potatoes in quantity. Average American home uses from 10 to 12 pounds weekly anyway. Help the war effort by finding storage for a plentiful necessary food crop. Incidentally, did you know that a potato loses from 1/10 to 1/4 its bulk when peeled? A large part of its vitamin C and iron. It is estimated that 1 of every 7 potatoes is lost by peeling. Bake them frequently. Boil them with their jackets on more often. Hi! Welcome 16-Bit Eric, welcome Raiders! Hello Whimsies, how are you? How was the rest of stream? I hope that you had a good stream. If anybody here is not following 16-Bit Eric, go follow 16-Bit Eric because he is amazing and he has a wonderful community and it's just a fun time to hang out over there. Honestly, follow and watch and you will enjoy yourself. But welcome in everybody. If you're new here, I am Anthony Wright de Hernandez, Community Collections Archivist at Virginia Tech. I go by Rogan27 here on the Twitcherverse. And this is my weekly show where I pick a theme and we look at things from the archives. Most often, I've never seen them. And so it goes out both to my channel, twitch.tv/Rogan27, as well as the channel of Virginia Tech University Libraries, twitch.tv/VTUL Studios. And this week's theme is Victory Gardens. We've surprisingly found very little about gardening itself. So there are 4 boxes that were pulled for today's stream. Beyond knowing that there was some stuff about Victory Gardens in them, I haven't really looked at the stuff before. And so we've been exploring to see what we can learn about Victory Gardens. And we've mostly learned about canning, drying foods to preserve them, how to make root cellars, and things like that. And it's been really interesting. So welcome in. It is great to have you joining. Pretty Witchery, yes, you are the VIP. Castabris, hello. Or Castaboras, I don't know. Shadows of Life, yes, nice timing talking about potatoes. Oh, with Eric showing up, yeah. I mean, he was talking about how Irish his full name is. And here we are talking about Irish potatoes. Apparently it's a victory food. Let's see. Have you heard how a government official described the news from the food front? There's going to be less of this and that now and then, here and there. This is a newsletter from Pillsbury. From, I think this was 1943. It mentioned some Victory Garden stuff at the beginning of it, so but just skimming through, because we're looking for info about Victory Gardens today. Blue Rooster, hi. Oh, this one's this is, again, not specifically Victory Gardens, but wartime food related, so. Did you know? Bees worked overtime this year. WFA reports a record production of honey, at least 20 million pounds more than last year. Sunny weather while clover was in bloom. 1943 rice crop about 8% larger this year. Government officials believe tea supplies available to civilians can be increased with mounting stockpiles in India and more shipping space available. Americans normally consume 8 million pounds a month, have been limited to about 50 million pounds a year. I just love that bees worked overtime this year. Sugar restrictions may be eased in 1944. Let's see. Recipes for the holidays. That's not Victory Garden. Let's see. We got a couple more of these newsletters. Pillsbury's. Fightin Food Communique. I'm skimming right now looking for mentions of Victory Gardens because that's what we're targeting. And while this is interesting, I'm trying to stay focused and find the Victory Garden material for today. Usually I just let myself go wherever the materials take me, but Victory Gardens is today's theme, and this is what doing research in an archives can be like. I pulled a bunch of folders that potentially could have relevant material, and now I'm going through looking for the relevant material. Let's not worry about sugar. Alright, so this is about how to can things without sugar. That's not Victory Gardens. None of that was as fun as the Snoopy. While I skim and find something Victory Gardens related, enjoy Snoopy and Woodstock. Good luck with the focus, yeah. I mean, I'm not very good at focusing myself, so it's a paper napkin. So. I don't know about this, but these might be interesting to look at, so we might look at them anyway. Regardless of whether they're Victory Garden related. Thanksgiving Day, VJ Day, that's victory, just not exactly what I'm looking for. um, See, what's funny is I know we have stuff, but also some of the stuff that I specifically knew that we had was in a box that got mostly destroyed by water damage about a year ago. I remember that happening to me a lot, especially if you're like me and end up going down a completely unrelated yet fascinating rabbit hole. Yes! Well, the first time I tried to do this, we ended up talking about propaganda the entire time. Trying not to do that today, but this is mostly menus. Yeah, well, of course it's mostly menus. The folder's labeled menus. Maybe I should look at the folder title. Ration books, recipes, U.S. government publications. This one will have relevancy. I know which folder this Snoopy goes in, but finally, one of the things I knew existed that inspired the episode, but that I didn't know where it was. Your Victory Garden worksheets. Growing superior quality vegetables has always been of primary interest to Beech-Nut Packaging Company because only the finest foods go into our products. We realize the enjoyment that comes from eating good food. We know the importance of a healthy, well-fed nation. We wish you every success with your garden. Compliments of Beech-Nut Packing Company. Conagahary, New York. This is a place that I have not previously heard of. I have no idea how close I came to pronouncing it correctly. Canajoharie. First time I've ever seen it. I tried. Alright, so Victory Garden. It's a whole, booklet about Victory Gardens. Woo! Oh. Alright, Victory Garden worksheet. Where to plant? It sounds made up. The government publication, it wouldn't be made up. It is best to select a spot for your garden that is sheltered from the storms of the north by buildings, a clump of trees, not as bad as some Louisiana towns. If possible, you should choose ground level like this. Good. Water will not wash away valuable topsoil or fertilizer. Also, it's easier to work than a slope. Run rows north and south. Next best. If it must be on a slope, it's better on ground that slopes toward the sun. Run rows across direction of slope, not up and down. This will hold water. Bad. Bad. Garden at the bottom of a northern slope. It doesn't get enough sun. What size garden? First, ask yourself, how big is my family? How much work will they do? Time will they have? How many kinds of vegetables will I need? What vegetables does my family like best? I love that it's not just first. Ask yourself, how big is my family? Because you're supposed to be using this to help feed your family and supplement rationing. But also, how much work will they do? How much time do they have? Potatoes? This is big enough to grow an adequate amount of assorted vegetables for a family of 4. It will provide a large part of your seasonal needs, with probably some left over for canning. Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew. This is 25 feet by 50 feet, so 1,250 square feet. They're saying that should give you decent size for a family of 4. What vegetables? These are all easy to grow. Before deciding, however, it is wise to ask your neighbors who have had gardens what types of plants grow best in your vicinity. Check here the ones you intend to plant. Those in italic are frost resistant. So this is literally a workbook, like a worksheet to help you plan how to plant your victory garden if you've never gardened before. So victory gardens, if you're not familiar and weren't here earlier, basically it was a patriotic thing to plant a garden in order to grow as much of your own food as you could in order to supplement rationing and allow for the larger production of vegetables and fruits to be routed towards wartime uses instead. Who wants a leaking garden? Shadows of life. This one does not mention that vegetable that threw me on a tangent because I'd never heard of it before. I've already forgotten what it was. Salsify. We read all about salsify and I still don't know what it is. Do we know if these were one size fits all or were they adjusted based on state or region? I do not know. My suspicion is that this one was meant to be one size fits all. A lot of the things that we've been looking at before or earlier in the episode were Virginia specific because they were put out by Virginia Tech. This one being from Beech-Nut, which would have been a national brand. I suspect it's meant to be more universal in application. Stavros. Victory salad! I love that emote. That's amazing. I'm trying to hover and see. I don't know the streamer, but I do like that mixed salad. It's cute. Okay, so options or recommended options here. Like, you wouldn't have to worry about frost resistance in, well, probably not in the 40s. Today, you might consider it. I don't know. I know there was some issues with frost and oranges in Florida for a while, but yeah, generally, probably fine. Beets, carrots, peas, radishes, lettuce, spinach, chard, onions, beans, cucumbers, parsley, kohlrabi, summer squash, parsnips, rutabagas, leeks, and turnips seem to be the basic ones. These require more care or transplanting. Cabbage, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, peppers, cauliflower, potatoes, tomatoes, eggplant, endive, and corn. What tools? These are the tools you'll need for a family of 4 garden or one less than 25 by 50 feet. A trowel, a hoe, a rake, a spade, a watering can, and a duster. The duster, I suspect, from some of the other things we looked at, is going to be used for a Darius-based insecticide, natural insecticide. For a somewhat larger garden, you'll find the following additional tools helpful. A hand fork, a weeding hoe, a spading fork, 6 to 7 foot poles, 6 to 7 foot poles or stakes, a ball of twine, and a measuring rod. Okay, a hand sprayer, a bushel basket, and 30 to 50 feet of hose. Don't buy too many tools. Many are gadgets or luxuries, and in the end, increase the cost of the vegetables you raise. Decent advice. Don't go overboard and buy everything thinking you need it. So then this is the first and most important step in growing vegetables successfully is making a plan on paper. Then following it. Wait, you're supposed to follow the plans you make? Is that really a thing? You're supposed to make plans and follow them? You have a garden in the back. This year you had peppers, tomatoes, watermelon, and squash. A 6 to 7 foot pole or 6 to 7 1 foot poles. I do not know, Shadows of Life. I do not know. When we were in Minneapolis, the last year that we were there, there was a community garden that had been started where you could get a plot, and it was a small plot, but you could grow like a tomato plant or two in the amount of space that you would get. It was like a neighborhood thing where like anybody could go and grow stuff. Because we were in a big city, and that was nice to be able to have. I mean, we didn't, but we had friends that did. Lay out a small diagram of its intended size and shape. Mark each row. Write in the name of the vegetable you want in each row, its planting dates, and the distance between each row. Keep the taller growing vegetables on the western side, so all plants will be exposed to the morning sun. Figure out your seed list and decide how much you will need. All right, so this is a map of the northeastern United States showing average dates of last killing frost in spring. Adapted from map prepared by the United States Department of Agriculture. So this is letting you know when it's probably safe for you to start planting. Like way up here in northern Maine, June 10th is the average date of the last killing frost. The deer ate the peas. Aw. But most of the Northeast, end of April or mid-May should be safe times to start your garden. So based on that, I'm assuming that this booklet is specifically intended for the northeastern United States. Published in New York. The only map given is northeastern US. Peas for the deer god. Fertilizing adds fertility. Amazing. To the soil to help the plant growth. Very often to make it possible. Consequently, it is very important. Fertilizing, if too late for fall, fertilizing should be done as soon as the ground can be worked in the spring. Spread fertilizer and lime before you spade or plow the ground. Exactly which kinds and how much depend on your particular soil. Rules can only be general. Your neighbors who have already gardened or your local seed dealer can probably best answer those questions. How often or when subsequent fertilizing is necessary also depends on your own particular soil and upon weather conditions and the nature of your plants as well. Experience, extensive reading, and your common sense will give you the answers here. The three main types of fertilizers are organic, liming, and chemical materials. I love that. Also, yes, thank you, Hannah. I love that they're very clear in, look, fertilizing, important. But this is a general guide, and we can't tell you what your soil needs as far as fertilizing. You need to talk to your neighbors that garden, or the place you're getting your seeds, your local seed dealer. Yes, Shadows of Life, you have a local seed dealer. The word dealer in that case just sounds rather sketchy, but I assure you it's not. But yeah, like, you need to talk to the people that know about gardening in your area to learn what's needed to garden in your area. I love that. I love that is the advice they give, that they don't try to suggest anything. They don't even give any advice on everybody should use blah, blah, blah. Because they're not trying to sell a product. They're trying to tell you how to start a garden. And so they're saying, yeah, we can't tell you. We don't know what your soil is like. You need to learn about your soil. Pro tip. Used coffee grounds and eggshells make great fertilizer. Yeah, I knew about used coffee grounds. I think I knew about eggshells, but honestly, I know just like composting in general tends to make good. But yeah, I've never, I shouldn't say never. It's been a long, long time since I had a garden. Let's see. Organic or natural materials are well-rotted manures. Yay. Or leaf mold. Or peat moss. Or compost pile. Decomposed food refuse, leaves, lawn clippings, weeds, etc. Liming materials are finely ground limestone, or hydrated lime, or wood ashes that have not been rained on. Chemical or dry fertilizers are mixtures of various fertilizing materials and are sold under brand names. The most practical one for a Victory gardener being the 5-10-5 Victory Garden fertilizer. It can be obtained from your local seed dealer or hardware store. Just before breaking up the soil, spread on dry fertilizer about 3 pounds per 100 square feet. They recommend a specific product after I praised them for not doing so. But anyway, sometimes you may care to use dry fertilizer as a soil reviver once the seedlings are up. In such case, spread it carefully along the soil on one side of the plant. Need to find the right balance of the three: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Light the fire for the gods and use the ashes to grow you plants. How to apply fertilizers. The most practical method is to sprinkle the fertilizer over your garden by hand before spading the soil. Or if you are careful, you can use a shovel and toss the fertilizer over the soil in a thin layer. Plants love blood meal. The vampires. Flowers biting blood carrots. The best and most practical way of fertilizing seeds and plants is to use liquid fertilizer, a mixture made by adding water to a chemical fertilizer. Okay. Bone meal. Yeah. Planting seeds in flats. Optional. Well, considering that we are running overtime, I'm going to skip the optional, but transplanting. Let's breaking up the soil and planting in the garden. Don't begin breaking the soil when it is wet. If it packs or forms a sticky ball in your fist, then it isn't ready to be broken. Wait until it crumbles easily. It's great for dead people to eat shadows. If you are starting a new garden plot, remove weeds, stumps, or bushes to prevent interference with the growth and care of the garden. Dig straight down and make sure that you reach the soil at least 10 to 12 inches below the surface. Bring that underneath soil to the top. Break the clods as you dig. Leave the soil loose, fine, and crumbly. When your soil is turned over and broken up, smooth it with the back of a garden rake. Rake your garden bed slightly higher in the center than at its border to prevent finding your garden a huge puddle after a heavy rain. Pound stakes at either end where you want each row. Tie a string to the stakes as your guard in making rows. It is not necessary to dig furrows. You can make deep enough seed furrows with the end of your rake handle. Why are there lyrics? The settings I have are for no lyrics. Apparently, wait, what? Shadows, I'm confused. Also, I don't know why Nightbot yelled at you for spamming caps. Also, why is Nightbot in my chat? I don't use Nightbot. I was looking at Nightbot earlier for someone else's channel, but I don't use Nightbot. Nightbot is not supposed to be active on my channel. I think Gary's gotten a hold of Nightbot. Apparently so. But also, like, what caps are you yelling about, Nightbot? I will fix that later. Space seeds in furrows as recommended for each variety of vegetable. 1 packet of seed of each variety is sufficient for a family of 4. Unless soil is unusually damp, apply starter solution, see section on liquid fertilizers, directly to the seeds before replacing the soil. Use your seed envelope as a marker at the end of the row until the crop is up. Firm your soil well with a plank or with the back of the rake. Some sort of border, preferably a wire or picket fence, will greatly improve the looks of your garden and help to keep out rabbits. You should try it, Hannah. What about weeds? Pull them up by the roots. Weeds rob vegetables of water and plant food. Crowd or shade them. Reduce yield. Rake the garden thoroughly just before planting. Control weeds in the rows by pulling them as soon as they get started. Rake between the rows after every rain when weeds are just coming up. If weeds are 4 inches or more high, they must be pulled by hand and should be pulled from the bottom so their roots come out with them. Long weeds, a foot high, have their roots intertwined with the plant roots and cause damage if pulled from dry soil. Better to cut them with pruning shears. It says you can't warn a bot. A lot of what we refer to as weeds did not used to be weeds. Weeds love fertilizer too. I mean, generally like dandelions are considered weeds today, but I say we, Europeans brought dandelions to the Americas as a source of food and spread them around. But it was poor people food, so they're weeds. Let's see. Mulching's not required. Gives some more stuff about mulch. Specifics on growing onions, growing cabbages. It even gives you illustrations of what some of the pests that you might want to look out for are. Corn. I randomly, in my last apartment, right around the time that I was moving out of it, it was a ground level apartment and it had like a patio. And just beyond the patio was like mulch from, because they mulched around the side of the building. And in like the week or two before I moved out, this plant just shot up from the mulch. And it grew and grew. And at first I wasn't sure what it was. But right around the time I was moving out, it was very clear a single stalk of corn was just growing up out of the mulch outside my apartment. No idea how it got started. Whether the seed was in the mulch or somehow somebody had dropped it there, but it just grew on its own. If I had stayed there and it had produced actual ears of corn, I might have tried it. I don't know. Snap beans, radishes, and turnips. Oh, it is time. I do have to be going. Lettuce, carrots, tomatoes, chard, and beef. Oh, and they give a summary sheet. Oh, including the 12 most common garden pests and their control. Assuming this is, again, probably tailored to the Northeast United States. Tomato hornworm, squash bug, cutworm, Mexican bean beetle, cabbage worm, potato beetle, aphid, corn ear worm, thrip, leafhopper, striped cucumber beetle, and Japanese beetle. Suggested reading for Victory Gardeners. Look at the vegetable. Anyway. They recommended the Vegetable Encyclopedia and Gardener's Guide, the Pocket Book of Vegetable Gardening, the Vegetable Garden. Grow your own vegetables. 25 vegetables anyone can grow. How to grow food for your family. The Food Garden. Food Gardens for Defense. The New Garden Encyclopedia. Gardening. Gardening for Victory. Handbook of Vegetable Gardening. Victory Garden Bulletin. And Victory Gardens. These sheets were compiled to make gardening both simple and fun. Keep them handy to your garden. Use the reverse side of sheets for notes on this year's garden. If you keep track of planting dates, space allotted, and yield, this information will be a valuable guide for next year. All material herein has been reviewed and approved by a horticultural authority of national reputation. Printed in USA. It's so cool. It's all really cool. All of it. I enjoy all of it. I want to keep looking, but sadly, oh, look, there's more from the Make America Strong campaign. We have victory cake recipes. No, I really do have to end, though, because I do have to. There's never enough time. But I hope that you found it fun, interesting, enjoyable to be here. Apparently there was a puzzle. Wait. Victory! If you solve this portion of the Allies' major war problem, it is tough, but can be done. A patriotic, interesting puzzle. The problem is to join all 10 nations together and form a perfect square. All we have is the box. We don't have the actual puzzle, which is sad. Unless... Wait, no, we do have the puzzle pieces. I don't have time to do a puzzle. It's already past 5. Anyway. Okay, let me end out the stream. Thank you everybody for joining me today. Thank you, of course, to Eric for the raid. I really enjoy this. Hopefully you all enjoyed this. There is no stream next Wednesday. There is no episode of Archival Adventures next Wednesday. During this time, I will be teaching a class. So, actual, like, students will be hearing me talk to them about whatever specific archival topic I'm supposed to talk about that day. I don't know. I have like 3 or 4 different classes that I'm teaching over the next 2 weeks. I don't remember which one that is, but I will be teaching a class next Wednesday, so there is no episode next week. 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks from now, we will finally do the Hauser Institute thing that we ended up having to skip back in August. And then after that, we'll have another sci-fi story. And then I have some really interesting things that I've planned for when we get into October. Union Electricitas Gesellschaft Company, the West Virginia Hillbilly, Mead and Baker Apothecary Ledger. When we get towards November, Evaporated Milk Association and National Biscuit Company. There's some interesting things coming up. Sadly, though, no episode next week. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I know I've been a little bit random. That's normal. Let me see where we're gonna go. Let's see, there's Steven, there's Spider Crab Cam. Differential equations. It's been a couple of weeks. We've done maths a few times. I think we're gonna pop in on Steven, because it's been a few weeks since we did, and he's been a nice supporter and has a lovely community, makes tiny hats. We'll put on tiny hats for you if you ask, and just generally has a great community, and it's a fun place to hang out. So we're gonna pop on over to Stephen Joy's and say hi. I encourage you to join me for the raid, and hopefully I will see all of you again for a future stream. Again, no stream next week, but 2 weeks from today, it'd be great if I saw you again. Anyway, thank you all very much for joining me today. I hope that I will see you again soon. Until I do, keep exploring history.